Sensei Hamza, back with another Scratch Game tutorial. Today, we'll be creating the ping pong game. Really hope you guys enjoy. Alright everybody, so today we'll be creating the ping pong game using Scratch as always. If you haven't done so, go to scratch.mit.edu, log in, and hit the create button in the top left corner. That'll bring you to the screen. Alright, so the first thing we'll do is we'll name our game. Today we'll be creating the ping pong game, so let's name it that. Alright, so after that, we need to get our sprites first. So this game we won't be using the cat, so we can get rid of that sprite. And all the sprites that we'll be using for this game will be created. So all we have to do is hit the ping button, and that'll take us to this screen. So for the ping pong game, we need 2 paddles and we need 1 ball. So let's make the ball first. You guys could use whatever color you want. I'll use blue because I like blue. You guys could use whatever color. Let's make the ball. Alright, so there's our ball. We can name it ball. And we also might want to make it a little bit smaller, just so, maybe not that small. We might want to make it 75. Yeah, that'll work. Alright, so there's our ball. The next thing we need is our 2 paddles. But what we'll do is we'll make 1 paddle, insert all the code for that, and then we'll just duplicate that, because that's a lot easier than making 2 separate paddles. So right now we have 1 paddle and 1 ball. Alright. So player 1, we'll name this, and then once we insert the code for the player 1, we'll duplicate it and name that one player 2. Alright, so now that we have our sprites, let's go to the code. We'll insert the code for the player 1 paddle first. So the first thing we need is the when green flag is clicked, we can go to x -193 and y 0. Alright, so if we hit the green flag, that takes the paddle right here, which is about where we want it to be for when we start the game. So that works. The next thing we need is a forever loop and 2 if statements. So let's grab those. Alright. After that, we want to go to sensing and get the key pressed. So to control the first paddle, we'll be using the up and down key. So the goal of this game is to create a ping pong game that will make the ball bounce back and forth between 2 paddles, and you'll be able to play with somebody who is in quarantine with you, someone like a family member or a sibling or anybody really that you're currently living with, since there's not much to do right now. So you'll be able to play them. We'll have 2 sets of controls. The player 1 paddle will be able to be controlled with the up and down key, and the player 2 paddle will be able to be controlled with the W and S key. Those of you who have played video games online, oftentimes you use the W and S key to control stuff instead of the up and down key, because it's easier. So that's what we'll be doing here. So for the player 1, we'll be using the up arrow, and once we press the up arrow, we want to change the Y by 8. Alright. And then once we press the down arrow, we want to change the Y by -8. So let's test that now and make sure that works. Alright. So I press the green flag and it goes to -193.0. That works so far. And I press the up key, the up arrow, and it goes up, and I press the down arrow and it goes down. Alright, so that works so far. So we're good to duplicate this. So to duplicate a sprite, all you have to do is right click on it, and then you get this menu, and all you have to do is hit the duplicate button. So there you go. Now we have two paddles, the 2 paddles that we need for this game. But we can't have it be the same exact code, otherwise they'll be at the same exact position. Right now they're on top of each other, so you can only really see one. So let's go to the player 2 paddle, and let's insert the code. So if the player 1 paddle is at -193, we want the player 2 paddle to be on the opposite side, but at the same level. So we could make that 193. See? Now the player 2 paddle is right here, and they're right parallel to each other. And to control the player 2 paddle, I said earlier that we'll be using the W and the S key. So W will be up and S will be down. Okay. So now if I do that, I'm pressing W makes it go up and S makes it go down. Alright, so there's the code for the paddles. Now it's time to do the real code for the ball. So for the ball, we need when the green flag is clicked, And then we need to create our two variables for this game. So our two variables will be the score variables. So we'll have player 1 score. Let's make that. And then we'll have player 2 score. So those are our two variables. Let's move the player 2 one right here. So the player 1 is right here, and the player 2 score, and the player 2 is right here with the score up here. So we'll need to initialize these two variables both to 0 when the green flag is clicked. So set player 1 to 0 and set player 2 to 0. This means that whenever we start the game, they both have a score of 0, which only makes sense. And then for the ball, we want to also initialize where the ball starts from. So we'll have it go to x 0 and y 0. Alright, so now as you can see, the ball is perfectly parallel with both of these, and it's pretty much equally spaced out, so the game is even when it starts. And then we also want to point the ball in a random direction so that when the game starts, the ball will go in a random direction. It won't be preset, like it won't just go straight every time. So let's go to motion, point in direction, pick random. So we're going to point it in the direction of a random number between -180 to 180. Alright. And then we need a forever loop. So let's grab our forever loop. And once we do that, we want the ball to constantly be moving. That's the whole point of the Pong game. The ball should never really be stopped unless a player scores a point. So we'll get the move button, move. Let's make it 8 steps, so it's not too fast. Let's see what happens now. So it goes in a random direction and it moves it. We'll fix that problem later, but I just want to show you guys that so far the code works. When the game starts, the ball goes in a random direction and it keeps going, and it moves at 8 steps forever. So the next thing we need is an if statement. So let's grab the if statement. So if the ball is touching, we need to put the or thing, and then we need to go to sensing. If it's touching, oh, that's not what I meant to do. If it's touching the player 1 paddle, or if it's touching the player 2 paddle, turn it in. We want to turn the ball into another random, into a random direction, but this time we want it to be between 150 and 210. Alright, so this code is signaling for now. This code right here, this if statement is saying that if it bumps into a paddle, it turns it into a random direction and returns it back. So basically this is reverting the direction of the ball, which is what it's supposed to do. When the ball hits the paddle, it's supposed to go back the way it came from, in a random direction. So that's what we've done there with that code. And then we also want to have the move 8 steps, so we make sure the ball is always moving. There we go. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is create the code for if the ball gets past the paddle. So if it gets past the paddle, that means that if player 2 hits the ball past player 1's paddle, that means that he should get a point, and the ball needs to restart in the center. Or on the other hand, if player 1 hits the ball past the paddle 2, then player 1 gets the point and the ball comes back to the center and the game restarts. So to that code, we're going to need 2 if statements. They're very similar if statements, so we'll make one and then we'll duplicate it. So if the x position is less than -230, so let's grab the less than. If the x position, let's go to motion as well and grab x position. If the x position is less than -230, then we want to change. Let's see, where's the. Okay, so the reason why the number is -230, let's stop the game. The reason why the number is -230 is if the x position is less than -230, which means right here is -208. -230 is right around here. So pretty much if it passed paddle 1 completely, then player 2 is going to get a point, and we're going to and the ball is going to have to come back to the center and restart again. So we're going to, if the x position is less than -230, we're going to change player 1 score by 1, they're going to get a point. Oh, player 2 score by 1, sorry. Player 2 by 1. And then we're going to have the ball go to x0, y0. And the ball is also going to have to turn at a random angle and move again. So we're going to get the turn, pick random. We could just duplicate it from here so we don't have to go and grab it again. It could turn to a random number between 150 and 210, and then it also has to move 8 steps again. So there we go. And on the other hand, on this side is if the x position is less than negative 230, then on this side it has to be if the x position is greater than 230. So right about here is 230. If the ball has gone past that, then the player 1 gets a point and the ball has to come back to the center. So what we need to do is we need to duplicate this code and put it right under here. And we need to shake this out, take that out, and we can delete this because we need a greater than operator. So let's go to the operators, grab the greater than one, and then we can put the x position in. Change this to 230. So if the x position is greater than 230, which means if it's over here, and we want to give player 1 a point, change the player 1 by 1, go to x00, turn, okay, this all remains the same. So that's good. Alright, so now if we play the game, let's see what happens. So you see it works, but then you guys will see eventually that there is a problem. I'll show you exactly what that problem is right now. So once it hits the top, all it does, or the top of the bottom, all it does is just go to the left. And go to the right. It doesn't bounce off the top and the bottom walls, which is a problem because that's a key part of the game. So believe it or not, this problem is actually really easy to fix. All you have to do is grab the if on edge bounce, and this basically means if it has hit the top or if it has hit the bottom, bounce the ball and make sure it goes in a different direction. So that's what we'll do. So as you guys saw there, it hit the top and it bounced and it came off. So let's see it again. Now it did it again, and if the ball hits the edge, then make it bounce. So there you go. I also think we should make the ball a little smaller because I think it's too big. Let's make it 60. Should work. Alright. So as you guys can see, if the ball hits the edge, then it bounces. Alright. So the last piece of code that we're missing here is basically how do you win the game? So I'm gonna make it so that if either of these two players reaches 20 points first, then they win. 20 points is a lot of points. You're really gonna have to work hard to get there. But you guys can make it whatever you want. You guys can make it 100, you guys can make it 10, whatever you guys want. So to do that, we're going to need an if statement, and we're going to need to go into the paddles. So I'm in the player 1 paddle right now. I'm in the player 1 paddle right now. All I need is a simple if statement. I can put that right there, and then I need an operator. So, if player 1 score is equal to 20, then say I win, because that means that the player 1 won. I win for 2 seconds, and then we want to stop the game so that we have to restart the game. Let's go to control and grab the stop. Alright. And we want to do the same thing in the player 2 paddle. So we could go to the player 2 paddle and grab an if statement and another operator and grab the variable player 2 score. If player 2 score is equal to 20, then say I win for 2 seconds. The paddles will be saying I win, so that's why we're using I and not player 2, because it's implied. And then we want to stop the game so that you have to restart. Alright, so that's pretty much all the code for the ping pong game. Really hope you guys enjoyed. This is a 2-person game, so I really hope this encourages you guys to have fun with your family, your dad, your mom, your brothers, your sisters, your aunt, your uncles, whatever. Anybody who's quarantined with you right now that's bored and wants something to do, you guys could show them this game that you created, and you guys could play together and see which one of you is better at ping pong. So again, I really hope you guys enjoyed. Stay safe, make sure you stay inside, and I'll see you guys next time.